Hey, I've got a subject here I want to talk about. It's why can't you be like everyone else? And this is CharlesFockaert on March the 4th, 2017. I want to welcome everyone, especially those of you who have subscribed or those of you who are new here to this channel. I encourage you to subscribe. And but back to the topic, why can't you be like everyone else? I've been told that a couple times in my lifetime, and I want to encourage you to not be like everyone else by giving you some examples in my own life as to you don't want to be like everyone else, but there's a cost you're going to pay, okay? There's a cost to be paid. The pressure is on for the average person to be like everyone else. But the average person looks up to and rewards people who are not like everyone else. They reward the artist, the person who can play the guitar better than anyone else, or act better than anyone else, or sing better than anyone else. So we have this conflict here because we don't want people to be like everyone else, but we want the people that are like us to be like us. You get that? And I want to give you some examples. I quit the varsity football team as a junior. I really wanted to play football in high school, but the coach, the very winning, very well-known coach in the San Gabriel Valley in Southern California, was going to play a sophomore, and he wasn't going to play me, even though I earned that position and I was just as good in my mind as the sophomore. I thought I was just as good, if not better, than he was, because I was kicking his butt in practice, but coach saw it otherwise. But he was a year younger, so the coach was going to get 3 years out of him. And I saw that, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to go along with that. I'm not going to sit on the bench while you play a sophomore when I should be playing. So I quit. And 3 coaches on the varsity football team, we only had 4 coaches. 3 of the other coaches were also the track coaches. So 2 years later, even though I had quit the varsity football team, 2 years later, those 3 coaches, and those were men that I looked up to because I didn't have a father in the house. I didn't have a dad to go to for advice, so I looked to these 3 men as my coaches and as my father figures. Well, they gave me the coach's trophy. I was awarded the coach's trophy as a co-captain of the track team as a senior in high school. So these 3 coaches told me basically that I wasn't like everyone else. And even though I had quit and I thought they would hold that against me, they saw that as my being a man because they told me so. They told me I was a man's man, and that's why they had given me the coach's trophy. And I don't say that to brag. It's, hey, I did what I thought I had to do. I did what I thought was right, and other men thought that I did the right thing also. Fast forward several years later. I've been married for over 20 years. The wife comes to me. And remember, the wife married me because I wasn't like everyone else. The wife comes to me and tells me one day, why can't you be like everyone else? And I told her, well, if I was like everyone else, you'd be living in a much smaller home. We had a 3,300 square foot house at the time that I built, custom built as a contractor. You'd be living in a much smaller home with a higher mortgage payment. You'd be driving an older car, which we'd probably be making payments on. We wouldn't be able to go on as many vacations as we do out of the country, and we wouldn't be able to take our children with us and you probably wouldn't have a nanny, and you probably would not have a cleaning person come in and clean house for you every week. Now, why in the world you want to marry someone who's just like everyone else, I have no idea, but that's exactly what she did. She went on to marry someone who was just like everyone else. And I hope that she's happy. I went to Thailand, and I ended up working for a lady, a young lady with wealthy father who gave her the money to start a music school, and then she transferred and migrated into teaching English. She had a music school and an English school. And I got there and I gave her some advice. I said, you need to get rid of, you're going to do English, get rid of the music and put in computers here in the bottom floor. She had 2 floors. Bottom floor bottom floor music, top floor English. And I also taught for her at a private all-boys Catholic school, big school. I taught students that didn't even have a table or a desk. They only had chairs, and we didn't have any materials. We had an English book, but no materials to work with. So I went out and spent my own money, bought some materials, so that the students would have some interesting interaction and materials to learn with. I spent about $12 US, maybe $15 US over a period of a few months. I went in and I said, I'd like to get reimbursed for the money that I spent. And she says, well, we don't do that. And I looked at her like, well, you run the school. I'm not. Then she says, why can't you be like all the other teachers? So I went home that night and I gave that some thought. And the next morning, I called in sick. I've always liked this quote for quite a while anyway. People with new ideas, people with the faintest capacity for saying something new are extremely few in number, extraordinarily so in fact. That's by Dostoevsky, one of my favorite authors. And I didn't work there too much longer after that, but I sent her a letter. I was pretty foolish at the time. I thought I'm going to give her some advice. She didn't ask for it, and I didn't give advice after that to anybody because they don't listen anyway. But I said, you're going to have a problem at the school because you can't get the students to listen to the teacher. And I had a very hard time, and I was pretty mature. I had 4 children. I was administrator of a private school for a while. I said, you're going to have a problem with these classes unless you make some changes. You need a Thai person in the class of authority to keep the students. They were all boys. I had about 45 boys in my class. Anyway, I'm sorry for the long story, but I told her, you're going to have a problem. Sure enough, the young man that took my place, I met him on the road later, and he said that in order to discipline the student one day, he grabbed the boy by the arm, and he picked him up, and he pushed him against the wall, and he left a bruise on his arm. And the boy went home. This is an elite boys' school, Catholic school. They pay big money. So the father went to the school and complained that the teacher had manhandled the boy and left a bruise on his arm. So that spoiled owner of that school lost those 2 contracts. The contract at the all-girls school, the contract at the all-boys Catholic school. That was her bread and butter. So her business went down the tubes because right up the road, another English First or one of those chain English teaching programs came in and had computers and all the up-to-date materials and hardware that people were using to teach English with. So her business went under. She went belly up. And I met her one day in the market and with her father and her mother there, and they were buying groceries, and she looked at me and I looked at her and I said, ha, ha, ha. See, I wasn't like everyone else, and I gave you advice and you didn't follow. Now you're like everyone else and you went out of business. So I just want to tell you that you don't want to be like everyone else. Just because other people are doing it and they think a certain way and they do certain things a certain way, or they believe certain things, go with what you think is right. Just do your homework and stick to your instincts. Isn't it better to be wrong when you go with your own gut feelings and make your own mistakes, rather than follow the advice and follow the crowd and be wrong and make mistakes? You know, that's the way I've done it all my life. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but we reward people. The average person rewards those who are not like themselves. The singers and the guitar players and the saxophone players, we don't reward saxophone players or actors that are like everyone else. We reward those who are different, who do things their own way, who are not like everyone else. But the average Joe, the average sheeple, they want the average person like them to be just like they are. And I'm encouraging you, don't be like everyone else. Thank you for watching. Embrace the love of the truth. It'll help you from being duped and making mistakes. And may the grace of God our Father be with us all, for we certainly need it. See you.